You are listening to the Speak Podcast.
The podcast featuring talks from Speak, a public speaking platform for people with ideas and stories.
Produced by Launchpad 516 Studios. Welcome to the Speak Podcast, produced by Launchpad 516 Studios. New episodes available every week on all your favorite podcast platforms.
Speak is a public speaking platform for people with ideas and stories. Each Speak Talk features three key moments: the moment of truth, the moment of transformation, and the moment of impact.
We host pop-up events all over the world, and now we are bringing our talks to your device. Our speakers are stepping onto the stage and into the spotlight, and now onto this podcast.
Welcome to the show. Welcome to the Speak Podcast. I am your host, Fred P. Bannon III, the builder and one of the core leaders here at Speak. In today's episode, we embark on a thought-provoking journey into the intricate interplay between identity and race in our micro-theme title, What's in the Name and the Race? Join us as we hear from three of our published speakers who bravely shares their personal experiences and reflection on the significance of one's name and the subtle yet impactful role perception and race plays in our everyday decisions. Our first speaker in today's episode is Dr. Charles E. Thompson III. In his talk titled Black Professionalism, Normalizing Black Excellence, Dr. Thompson shares his observation about Black excellence, noting that in his experience, the expectation of excellence within Black communities is often discussed only in the context of sports and entertainment. He argues that outside of these arenas, Black excellence should be normalized and expected, especially for Black youth. Let's dive into this talk as Dr. Thompson shares why broader recognition of Black excellence is crucial beyond the confines of sports and entertainment. Here's Dr. Thompson with his talk title, Black Professionalism, Normalizing Black Excellence.
You're a doctor. Good for you. Thank you for explaining everything to me so clearly. When am I going to meet the surgeon? I didn't expect my doctor to be so tall. Do you think you would be a surgeon without affirmative action? These are some of the comments that I've had to deal with as a Black man who happens to be a surgeon. It seems as though being a Black professional continues to be a point of shock, of awe for a lot of people, of disbelief even. And when I say professional, I don't mean it in the traditional sense for accountants or all attorneys, corporate executives, etc. By professional, I mean anyone that's had a lot of training, anyone that has had years of education, both formal or informal, or those holding a position of power and prestige. And obviously, for people who are not Black, being constantly encountered with Black professionals will make our existence seem much more of a normality and less than an exception. And we'll speak about what normality means or what normal means a little later. But what's not often talked about is that Black people give me the same reaction. When I walk into the doctor's office for a consultation, Black patients are also surprised. When I'm walking down the halls of the hospital because a patient needs surgical treatment for their infected gallbladder, Black patients are also surprised to see me. So one may ask, well, I understand why white people might be shocked at a Black professional, but why are Black people shocked at Black professionals? Well, as the eloquent James Baldwin once said in an interview, and I'm paraphrasing him, what the world does, if it does it long enough, and if it does it well enough, is that the world makes you a co-conspirator to your own demise. If the world says it's important to be white, you think it's important to be white. If the world says it's not important or it's bad to be black, you start to think it's not important or bad to be black, in paraphrase. So the world has done a number on the black community. And very often we sort of discuss in our private settings this messaging that the world has about black people, especially black men. Black men are athletes, entertainers, or criminals. And anything outside of those three boxes is an exception, is an aberration. Well, I'm here to let you know that black excellence is normal. Black excellence is expected. It wasn't that long ago that a Google search for 3 black teenagers would yield hundreds of pictures of incarcerated black men. Google has since worked on their algorithms, but this pervasive messaging has damaged our communities and continues to damage our communities, especially for our black youth. A little information about me. I grew up in Washington, D.C., with both parents and my brother. When I was 10 years old, we moved to Durham, North Carolina. My mother, both parents were college educated. My mother had a PhD in molecular biology. Both of my grandfathers had doctorate degrees, one in medicine, one in education. If anybody's wondering, I am black, full black. Both parents are black. All 4 grandparents are black, okay? I am black. So education was preached nonstop in my family. Outside of my family was the same thing. Both when we lived in Washington, D.C. and in Durham, North Carolina, my communities were all black families. All parents preached excellence, educational achievement, academic achievement in our families and in our whole entire communities. So the idea for me that the world wants to put me in one of 3 categories, athlete, entertainer, or criminal, just did not compute in my mind, because that's not how I was raised, and that's not what I was exposed to. My senior year of high school, I was trying to decide where I was going to attend college, as most seniors in high school do. On that list was Morehouse College. And for those of you who do not know Morehouse College, Morehouse is an all-black, all-male college in Atlanta, Georgia. Across the street is the all-black, all-female school, Spelman College. I wasn't too keen on Morehouse College, but my mother wanted me to go there so badly, and of course, mother knows best, right? So she calls me Chet. Chet, I want you to go down for a pre-college weekend at Morehouse to find out more about Morehouse and to see if this is for you. And I said, of course, Mom, I will go for you. When I arrived for this pre-college weekend, one of the first activities was to be in an assembly in what we call King's Chapel, Martin Luther King Chapel. So about 300-400 of us gathered in this chapel, and we were being lectured to. The person who was lecturing us said, I want everybody in this auditorium to stand up if you are vice president or president of your senior class in high school. And I kid you not, at least 75% of us stood up. These were all black boys. These were all black men, leaders, educational achievers. It was at that moment that I knew there was no other place for me but Morehouse College. And Morehouse was your typical college institution, other than the fact that we were all black and all male. But other than that, it was your typical college. There were very focused students. There were very unfocused students. There were very wealthy students coming from wealthy families. There were very poor students coming from not so wealthy families. There were very brilliant people. There were not so brilliant people. But we all had one thing in common, three things in common: being black, being male. The third being we all knew about black excellence. We all expected black excellence from ourselves. Not only did we expect it from ourselves, but we held each other accountable to expect black excellence from each other. Very powerful for me. After 4 years, I left Morehouse College and I went to another HBCU, or historically black college or university. I went back to Washington, D.C. and attended Howard University for both medical training and surgical training, medical school and surgical training. I was surrounded, again, by black excellence. I was surrounded by students who expected from themselves and from others academic high achievement. I was surrounded by black physicians, by black surgeons. So again, this idea for me that me as a black man, I have to be relegated to being an athlete, an entertainer, or a criminal just did not compute. I also found my wife at Howard University, so I was lucky for her being there as well. And I was keenly aware, of course, about the atrocities and all the things that were happening to black people currently in our country that has happened in the past. But I never felt like a minority. I knew that label was placed on me, but I never felt like a minority. When I left Howard, that's when I felt like a minority. I went to another institution of higher education for some more surgical subspecialty training. And it was at this institution that I felt like a minority because there were no other black colleagues. There were no other black surgeons. There was one here and there that I very rarely saw. And one may say, well, Charles is very unprepared for the real world because he hasn't been around white people as much as most other people have. And I say the complete opposite was the case. I had been nurtured. I had been coddled. I had been raised in a fashion to give me supreme confidence in my abilities, supreme confidence in what I was able to do. It was at this other institution that I began to learn that people are putting me in boxes that I don't belong. Aside from being taught by the other surgeons who were there, outside of those circles, nobody was talking to me about other medical issues or advancements in medicine. They were always saying things like, Charles, you remind me of LeBron James. You play basketball, don't you? Or you remind me from that guy from, Grey's Anatomy? Yeah, you look like him, right? Right? And the always offensive, Charles, you speak so well. Thanks, Bob. As if I'm supposed to speak any other way because I'm black. After finished training at this institution, I then came here to Long Island, where I started practicing surgery. I was out east in Suffolk County, and I was covering multiple different hospitals. One moment that really stood out in my memory bank was about 2 years after I had been here, the emergency room called me because they had a patient that they thought needed emergency surgery. So they called me, I came in. This was a 90-year-old woman who, upon presentation, had a perforated bowel, which means that she needed emergency operation. So as we always do, we go to the family and explain to the family what's going on, risks, benefits, etc. Before I could get a word out, this woman's son, he's in his 50s, he's a white male, pulled me to the side and said, Dr. Thompson, I teach at an historically black college or university in New Orleans, Louisiana. And I've been teaching there for multiple decades, so I'm very aware of the challenges that black men, black women have in our society. I have complete confidence in you, in your skills to take care of my mother to the best of your ability. Because I know for you to have gotten where you are today, you have to be highly intelligent, you have to work hard, and you have to break down many barriers that our society has put up in educating black boys and black girls. My initial thought was I really appreciated him saying that to me. This is something that I had never heard from a white person. Not as though I'm looking for acceptance or looking for adulation from them, but it was nice to hear. My second thought was, this is my self-imposed responsibility in order to normalize black excellence. I need to do my job in making black professional excellence more of a normality and less than an exception. I'm not saying that it's normal to be a doctor, a surgeon, or a lawyer, or a corporate executive, but it is normal to want to be excellent, and that's what our black youth need to hear. It is normal to know that over hundreds of years of atrocities done to our people, that our bones are infused with power, with strength, with resilience, to be excellent. Black excellence is normal. Black excellence is inevitable. That is my truth. Thank you.
That was an incredible talk by Dr. Charles E. Thompson III with his talk, Black Professionalism, Normalizing Black Excellence. It was a pleasure collaborating with you and seeing you take the speak stage to share such a powerful and necessary message.
This is Jason Martin, the engineer and one of the co-leaders here at Speak, and I'm so proud to introduce our next published speaker. Gene C. Victor Jr. was born in America from two Haitian immigrants. Gene struggled with his name as a child when people made fun of him or mispronounced it, and he found clarity and understanding when he listened to survival stories told by his parents, and he believes it is important to make sure that the heritage of our past generations will not be destroyed, and the key might just be his good name. From Speak Heritage, recorded in July of 2023 from Governors in Levittown, New York, here is Gene C. Victor Jr. with I Would Rather Have My Good Name Than Great Riches.
Nah, that's not it. It's Jean, not Gene. I grew up in a household where both my parents spoke English and Creole. My family members called me T-John, which means Little Gene, because I'm named after my father, Gene Victor. In school, I hated my name because kids made fun of it. They pronounced it wrong. I was angry, and I was hurt. In the 90s, I used to watch WWF wrestling. They used to call me Mean Gene Oakland. Hey, Levi's jeans. Gene the Dancing Machine. And the one that I love to hate, Genie of the Lamp. In high school, every single Haitian child that I met was put into a special ed class. Kids made fun of them. Those kids in that class were just like me. We spoke Creole. We ate Juri Jonjon, which means black rice. Griot, which means fried pork. Those kids in that class were just like me. Not only did we speak together, hang out with each other, I did not want to be associated with them with my other friends. That was hurtful. But the only place where I had refuge was in French class. Everybody said my name correctly. They pronounced it the way it was supposed to. And the thing that I loved the most in French class was the fact how the lady said my name. Sac pasation, which means, what's up, Jean? Then I would reply back, Mat boule beltifi, which means, I'm burning up right here, pretty woman. Both my parents are from Haiti, Port-au-Prince, the poorest land in the world, devastated by war and politics, destroyed by earthquakes. My father used to take me to work with him in a supermarket so we can stock shelves so I can learn work ethics. In the car, he took the opportunity to tell me stories of how he grew up in Haiti. He told me stories of how the government that was ran by Jean-Claude Duvalier. That's another reason why I hated my name. In those stories, he told me how the government kidnapped people, separated them from their families, and how they took children from classes and lined them up so they can watch live executions. They stole and harassed their own people. My father did not know his parents. He lost them at a very young age. A 5-second moment of silence for the grandparents I never knew. In the middle of my father telling me these stories, he said these lines. This is the reason why I came to America. Because I didn't want my family growing up just like me. Jean, you are my firstborn here in America. I had a shift. My mindset started to change. No more dumbing down my name. No more denying my name. That shift made me realize that, one, that I am honored to carry the Victor last name, the Victor legacy and the history. I'm the one who's responsible for making sure that people understand who I am. During that shift, I decided to construct my name. So there was no confusion. My father's name is Jean Victor. I took the letter C and I put it in between Jean and Victor because my middle name is Claude. Then I added the JR right behind it because I'm my father's son. And also, too, people would know that I'm a male. So now, anytime I say my name or write my name, I say the whole entire thing. I am Jean C. Victor Jr. I married a beautiful wife named Quantella. Quana for short. She introduced me to her son named Daquan. He's my first spiritual son. I love him so much. But Quantella said my name so sexy. That we had 2 boys named Zephaniah, which is biblical, and Jean-Qua, which is my name and Quana's name put together. 3 unique names that our boys are proud of. Daquan, he's out of the house and he's doing his own thing, and I'm very proud of him. He's become a very good man. Both of my boys are teenagers now. They had a project to do on their heritage. So I brought them over to my parents' house so they can listen to the same stories I heard growing up. Storytelling. The same stories that I heard made me realize that I am blessed in what I have. I learned that not only does your identity come from your heritage, that it tells a story that will teach you lessons and principles. To be clear, you pronounce my name, I'm talking about the pronunciation, Jean-Claude Victor Jr. I have a beautiful wife, I have 3 powerful boys, and I have a legendary parents that I love so much. And I'm a big brother to my sister Tamara. All of that, plus my good name, is priceless. Thank you.
That was Gene C. Victor Jr. with I Would Rather Have My Good Name Than Great Riches. We were so proud of how well Gene did during this event, which was his first time ever taking a stage of this kind. Our producer from Speak Heritage, Dana Lopez, worked hand in hand with Gene to help him deliver his speech. We thank Dana for her efforts, and we thank you so much, Gene, for sharing the story of your name with us on our stage. Our final speaker for today's episode is Linda Marie Miller, who came to us from our channel partner, Frank King. Pretending Not to Know is about Linda Marie Miller's moment of awakening as a result of helping a friend. She was 63 years old at the time and an accomplished professional that thought she knew everything. It was only when Linda Marie was brought face to face with what she had been pretending not to know that she really began to learn and know anything. This journey has changed her life and the lives of many others. Along the way, she learned about the power of our voices and how we can use our voices to create the change that we want to see in the world, but only when we stand up, step in, and speak out. Here's Linda Marie Miller with her talk titled, Pretending Not to Know.
If you want to change the world, but you don't know how, I have the key. It's just one little question, but it's the most powerful question in the world. In fact, this question changed my life, and I know it can change yours. This question can change the world. And the question is, what are you pretending not to know? I learned the answer to this question a few years ago when I was helping my friend Tony and his son Michael. Tony's office was next to mine at work, and as a result, we became friends, and I got to know his son Michael. Now, I got to tell you about Michael. Not your typical teenager. When Michael was just 15 years old, he met a homeless kid and convinced his dad to let him move that homeless kid into their house. Michael slept on the floor so that kid could sleep in a bed for the first time in a very long time. Michael shared everything he owned with this kid until he got back on his feet. What kid does that at 15 years old? When Michael went to college, he really excelled. He was so smart that in his first year of college, he tutored fourth-year chemistry students. He loved science. He loved it so much that he created a science experiment that blind children could conduct. And then he enrolled his professors and his fellow students to help him as he brought a group of blind students to the university to conduct the experiment. And that was in his freshman year. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm pretty sure my son didn't even go to class that first year. I think he spent it partying, but not Michael. Once I heard Michael calling his dad to say, "Hey, Dad, there's a party this Friday night on campus. Can I go?" A kid in college calling his parents to ask permission? Michael was the whole package. A brilliant student, a loyal friend, and an obedient son. And then another phone call came. Michael is dead. Hit by a car 600 miles from home on a college field trip. My friend Tony was too devastated, too grieving to even think about the details to get Michael's body home or plan a funeral, so I jumped into action to help my friend. First things first, call the hospital. Got to get his body home 600 miles away. They said Michael's body wouldn't be released until testing was done. Testing for drugs, testing for alcohol. I'm telling you what, a kid who calls his dad to ask permission to go to a party doesn't do drugs, and I know Michael doesn't drink alcohol. Next, I called the police department for a copy of the police report. Had the person that killed Michael been speeding or drinking or talking on their phone? The police said they asked the woman who killed Michael, and she said she hadn't been drinking or speeding or talking on the phone, and they had no reason to doubt her. My friend Tony gave me his Airbnb user ID and password so that I could go on and get accommodations for all of the grieving family and friends that were coming in for the funeral. There was a problem with his account because none of the reservations were being accepted, so I used my Airbnb account, and immediately all the reservations accepted. What's going on? I thought about it, and then it hit me. My friend Tony is black. His son Michael is black. I'd been pretending not to know that I'm a blonde-haired, blue-eyed, pale-skinned beneficiary of a system controlled by people that look like me. I'd lived a life of white privilege while my friend couldn't get accommodations for his grieving family coming to town. My son lived a life of white privilege while this amazing human being named Michael, on his way to medical school, is profiled even after his death, suspected of doing drugs or drinking alcohol or being up to no good for simply crossing the street in Orlando, Florida at 11 o'clock at night. The white woman that killed Michael wasn't tested for drugs or alcohol. She wasn't even suspected of speeding, even though she had a long history of speeding tickets. The accident was never even investigated. The more I thought about this, the angrier I became. This is discrimination. This is racism. I took comfort, though, in the fact that I am not a racist. I have never discriminated against anyone in my entire life. In fact, in my long career in corporate America, I hired many amazing black people. She never had a black boss. I live in a very diverse neighborhood. I'm the only white person in my cul-de-sac, and they all like me, my neighbors. I bet she's never invited him into her home. Hey, I have never told a racial jerk or used a racial slur in my life. But did she turn the other way when she heard other people doing that? I'd been pretending not to know that I was the problem. I remained silent when I saw racism in my family because I didn't want to miss out on a big, fat, juicy inheritance. I remained silent when I saw racism at work. I didn't want to be passed up for a promotion. I blamed it on a broken system. But guess what? The system is working exactly the way it was designed to. In exchange for my silence, I don't have to worry about anything. I don't worry about someone wanting to hurt my son. I don't worry about being watched if I go shopping. I don't worry about missing a promotion at work, and I don't worry about being shot if I am stopped by the police. I'd been pretending not to know that my silence benefited me at the expense of others. And at that moment, I started to speak out, and I have never stopped. I speak about racism. I speak about the real meaning of equity through reparations. I speak about mass incarceration in the United States and how current profit-based, privatized prison systems in the United States look a lot like a new form of slavery. I created a program called Whites Walking Willing. Its purpose is threefold. First, to take a deep dive into the racially problematic history of this country. Second, to neutralize the discomfort that white people sometimes feel when they're being honest in conversations about race. And third, to peel back the layers and take a look at the racist beliefs and ideas that we have deep inside of us, mostly unacknowledged and sometimes denied. I believe if you are socialized as white in the United States, and even if you're not, there are seeds of racist ideology planted in all of us as we've grown up. Now, I don't feel bad about this. I don't feel guilty about this. It wasn't my fault that in the 90s, watching the 6 o'clock news, the guy started referring to young black males as super predators, as black moms who had to have some help from the government as welfare queens, and the neighborhoods that were primarily black as urban jungles. It's no wonder that in my career, I hired a bunch of amazing black people. I never hired a black man. I've been raised from a very young age to be afraid of black men. They were dangerous. I also have a program where I teach speakers who want to elevate the level of their speaking so that they can have the changes they want to see in the world manifested. I teach them about the art and the science of speaking with the greatest possible impact. This is my passion. This is my purpose. What's your purpose? What's your passion? If you look around the world today, do you see anything that you think needs changing? If you do, I'll leave you with this. Nobody ever changed the world with their silence. Your voice is the most powerful thing you own, and when you join your voice with others' voices, there isn't anything we can't change in this world. Commit right here to using your powerful voice to change the world in the way that you think it needs to be changed. All it takes is learning your truth. And all that takes is one little question. So go ahead, ask yourself, what are you pretending not to know?
That was Linda Marie Miller with Pretending Not to Know. What a powerful talk, and Linda Marie was such a joy to work with. Messages like this are what the Speak platform is all about, and we thank you, Linda, for sharing your story with us. That does it for this episode of the Speak Podcast. Join us next week and every week as we bring you 3 more incredible talks from our pop-up events from all over the world. See you guys next week.
The Speak Podcast is brought to you by Launchpad 516 Studios. Executive produced by Fred P. Banning,
Jason Martin,
and George Andriopoulos. Our theme song, Champions Day, is by Lupus Nocti. Incidental music, Melting Places, is by Andres Cantu. Music and sound effects licensed through Epidemic Sound. The Speak Podcast is hosted with Podbean.
Make sure to subscribe to this feed wherever podcasts are available and leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts while you're at it. Follow Speak at Speak_event on Twitter and at Speak Event on all other social media platforms.
Visit our website, speakevent.com, for upcoming events, channel partner, sponsorship, and Speak at Work opportunities.
and follow all the great podcasts produced by Launchpad 516 Studios.